Hey everybody, welcome back to We Are Podcast.
This is We Are Bagu, Season 2, Episode 3, Flashcast.
If this is your first time checking out the podcast network, please head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, or iTunes, and give We Are Podcast Network a like. And if you get a chance, head over to our social media. All links can be found in the description. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at /We Are Podcast. And with that said, on to the podcast.
We are Bagu.
Hey everybody, welcome to We Are Bagu. This is Doc. I am here with... Wait, no, usually I do...
Yeah, no, you got it. You got it. We've been a little out of practice, but you got it.
Okay,
I am Dr. Reverend Ethan E., not really a doctor, but definitely a reverend. And what do we do on We Are Bagu, Duck?
We talk Atari to Steam and everything in between, because this is a video game podcast, and it's been a while.
It's been a while, but I'm finally done with fucking school.
Yeah, so that's
It's been a while.
We were waiting on Ethan to finish up school for the semester because school was a real bish.
Dude,
and
fuck this past 6 months.
Yeah, it's been rough. It's been
But
rough.
let's, over the last 6 months, I'm not gonna lie, Duck, I've been a little nostalgic. So let's go a little in between the Atari and Steam today. Let's take a look back at some of that Flashcast stuff.
Big time. So let's give a little bit of history. Now, there's a wonderful website out there you can check out called www.flashgamehistory.com. And it's an interactive site that actually goes through the history of Flash and a way of showing Flash throughout it. It's pretty cool. So, little history of Flash. Flash was introduced in 1996, originally intended for web graphics and animation, but because it was such a user-friendly programming language, amateur developers started using it to make games. Back in the 90s, the internet was slow, so it took forever to download anything. So Flash was created to work with crippling dial-up modems. Remember those?
Oh, yeah. I caught the tail end of that, but yeah, I definitely fucking remember that thing screeching at me anytime I tried to get on to do anything.
They were loud.
You got mail. Yeah.
Future Wave Software took a program originally designed for drawing on tablet computers and transformed it into a vector graphic animation tool that allowed animated images to blast through the slow phone lines. Future Splash Animator, that's what it was called, was eventually shortened to Flash. By the end of the 90s, Flash ran on 99% of online computers, becoming the backbone for websites such as YouTube and Hulu. Eventually, imager programmers took the graphics program because it had its own coding and started making games with it, turning Flash into a billion-dollar business for websites such as Newgrounds, Armored Games, Addicting Games, and Congregate, which I've never even heard about, but I'm guessing.
Yeah, that was something I used to play on when I was in elementary school. Yep.
So aspiring game developers created early versions of indie hits like Super Meat Boy, Bejeweled, and Kingdom Rush. And I always compare like Flash games, what we eventually got was when we got Windows 95, it came packed with simple games like Minesweeper and Chip's Challenge. In a lot of ways, those were the predecessors to the Flash games we eventually got. Flash games, whenever Flash first came out, I remember this. The games didn't really exist. That was something that came around in the early 2000s. But whenever Flash animation actually began, there were other things. People actually used it for animation. And so there were some key animated things that came out in the early days of Flash that I wanted to point out. I don't know if you've ever heard of these at all.
Lay it on me. Lay it on me.
First thing I remember is Toad in a Blender, Gerbil in a Microwave. You never heard of these?
Nope.
These were created by Joe Cartoon. They were simple Flash animations that were interactive. So basically, you would put a frog in a blender and you would have the 10 different settings for the blender. And as you push them, because you could click them, it would literally do an animation for like how the toad felt like. So at one point, like the toad's in the blender and it's just kind of like spinning on the thing a little bit. But then as you crank up the blender more and more, it becomes a slushy, basically. So these are really crude animations.
That is definitely some Flash shit right there. Like the best part that came out of all of this Flash animation, Flash games and stuff is there was so many people that made stuff because it was so accessible and so easy to use that you got some of the weirdest shit if you went digging for it.
Right. And this was the odd part. I mean, Joe Cartoon was like huge there for a while. The gerbil in the microwave also, because you would have a gerbil and you put him in the microwave and he would be telling you off, he'd be flipping you off and stuff like that.
And then he'd explode after you. Yeah.
Exactly. So it was one of those things where it was just this crass cartoon series. But speaking of crass cartoons, South Park actually utilized Flash animation when it first came out on the Comedy Central website. They would actually take clips from the show and reanimate them in Flash Animator and put them specifically online so people could watch clips from the show, because you couldn't do really YouTube clips back then they were too many megabytes, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But they could do Flash animation and do it within a small amount of megabytes so that you could upload that onto your, 56K modem.
That was probably the nice thing about Flash too, is it's really, really compact.
Right.
You can fit a lot of stuff in a little bit of space with it. But that also kind of lends itself to later on, you get these extravagant, off the wall, uber complex Flash games that they borderline something that came out of like a Unity engine build or something.
Yeah.
And it's leagues smaller somehow.
I mean, literally, we could say what those are, like games like Alien Hominid.
That got a full release eventually too, with what is it, Behemoth Games or Big Behemoth? I forget the name of the studio. That's going to kill me.
Meat Boy was another one. Meat Boy was eventually became Super Meat Boy and had its own thing.
The Behemoth Games, yes, the Behemoth. They made Alien Hominid, Castle Crashers, and then a couple of my personal favorites, Battle Block Theater. I don't think I've played Pit People yet, but that's a new one.
Pit People?
Oh, dude, they're coming out with another Alien Hominid.
I never got too much in Alien Hominid. It was fine for what
I played the shit out of Castle Crashers, and I played the shit out of Battle Block. That's my extent of it.
Well, I want to tell you something that you didn't probably know about South Park Studios and what they released.
What you got?
They did a deal on December 8th, 1999. They did a deal with Shockwave for shockwave.com. And shockwave.com is where you used to download the Flash player.
Yeah.
So they made a deal with them to release their own animated show called Princess. And what Princess was about was a small, cute little dog that roamed around the neighborhood and did little poodle stuff here and there and was just adorable. But the show wasn't really about Princess. And it was funny because like on the thing, they'd be like, Princess. But the show was about the neighborhood that happened around Princess and all the insanity that happened with the neighbors. And all I remember is the first episode, a husband had accidentally killed his wife because she gave him a blowjob and he shot his load out of the back of her head and blew her brains all over the wall. Yes, this was the show, dude. And it was on shockwave.com. It was supposed to be 39 episodes and they were like 3 to 5 minutes long. And it lasted all of like 3 episodes because it was too graphic. And the way they looked at the internet was it was the Wild West. They could do whatever they wanted. And that was definitely not what Shockwave was looking for. They did not want to house that on their website. So
that is so Matt and Trey, though.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I mean, like I said, the internet was the Wild West back then. They just wanted to do something crass and wrong. And they were young guys still. They were just fucking around, you know what I mean? But
they're still fucking around now.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean,
they said that they would continue to do episodes of it if somebody wanted to distribute it, but no one has picked that up, shockingly. But
wonder why. That's a damn shame.
Well, on other animated cartoons, the other one, and you will probably remember this, was Homestar Runner. Do you remember Homestar Runner?
No.
You at least know one thing from Homestar Runner, and it is Trogdor from Guitar Hero 2. Do you remember that song? Nothing. Wow, I'm shocked. So
of all the Guitar Heroes, I did not play 2 hardly at all. Okay. I played the fucking shit out of 3, so I know that set list like the back of my hand. But yeah, Guitar Hero 2, nah.
Nothing from 2. So Homestar Runner was an American Flash animated serial comedy series created by Mike and Matt Chapman. It began as a kid's book, basically, about this character called the Homestar Runner. And they ended up taking the book that they made and turned it into a web series. Now, it was huge in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's its own thing. It creates its own world, much like the South Park or the Simpsons or Family Guy, where you have all these characters. But the main character that you focus on is a man wearing a luchador mask named Strong Bad. And he had his own series of emails. Well, actual people would email in and they would flash animate him responding to it. They talk like this. He's like, oh, yeah, come on now. Come on now. He sounded like Al Pacino, basically.
That's great.
And that show has a special place in my heart because, once again, you can load that up at the school computer and watch it. And it's kid-friendly entertainment. Like,
did he read off one of your emails? Was that it, Doug?
Oh, God, I wish, dude. I wish. I would have been so
How many times did you email in?
I don't know if I ever did. But I should have. I didn't know how to work the email.
What's an email?
Exactly. I did not get it. Yeah, Homestar Runner used Flash animation pretty much for the entirety of its run up until I think they took a break from it, and now they brought it back on YouTube and they use puppetry for it. But it's kind of the be-all, end-all for cartoon animation with Flash because it was so successful. for the period of time it was there. I mean, they even had Wii games. Telltale Games actually made Wii games for Homestar Runner. And so they worked very well because the Telltale games are kind of like point and click adventures.
Right.
And that's basically what that entire website was because it was built with Flash animation.
Just one big point and click adventure.
Right. And it was a big world and it was fun to play. And like I said, being kid friendly, that also kind of made it very accessible for. I was a teenager when it came out, but even the kids younger than me kind of enjoyed it. But once again, that's a remnant of the internet that has gone forever now because Flash animation is dead. But we'll get into that at the end of this. Let's talk about your experience, Ethan, with Flash animation and why you wanted to talk about it today.
Well, when we originally had thought about doing this, it was right around the time when Flash was about to be completely phased out, discontinued, and more or less wiped off the face of the internet. It kind of holds a special place in my heart because I spent a lot of time on addicting games, Congregate, and Newgrounds, especially as a kid. So I caught the best of Flash games right at the very end, the little golden era where you had some of the best games, best animation. People had been using this for years. So you got some of the best stuff. And I have so many fond memories of just wasting hours scrolling through all the different crap on Newgrounds, watching random shit, playing the same 4 or 5 games over and over and over again, and just having a good evening, fucking around with Flash games. Probably one of my favorite series that just always comes to mind when I think of Flash is, and I don't know if you've played this or not, the Riddle School series.
Nope, never.
Okay. It originally was a parody on the Pico School. Do you know what that is?
No, what is that?
Okay, so
educate me, good sir. Educate
let me pull it up so I can actually. So Pico School was a Flash game by Tom Fulp, and I guess used music by that Johnny guy, according to this Newground page. But
who's that Johnny guy?
It's that Johnny guy. But the creator of Newgrounds, Tom Fulp, made this game called Pico School. Basically, you play a little kid, and your entire school is being shot up by goth kids.
Oh my God!
And you have to try to escape the school and save the day. And it's absolutely terrible.
That's horrible. It became reality.
Yeah, it did. But it's actually a pretty fun game, even though it's really fucked up. But what came out of it was a parody on that called Riddle School, where this guy who at the time was going by the username of John Bro, he made kind of the same thing, but a little bit more kid-friendly, where you were a kid and you had to find a way to break out of your classroom. And then you had to find a way to get the key to unlock the door and leave school early. It was a little bit more kid-friendly than...
That's a lot better than the other one, dude. The other one is horrible.
But...
That's horrible.
Yeah.
You played it!
Yeah, I did! And they have a fucking... There's a fucking day every year that Newgrounds celebrates called Pico Day.
Oh my God, it's horrible. Newgrounds. Why?
But it's such a classic icon of the site. It's one of the iconic characters of Newgrounds. Like, even if you haven't played that, you would know the character if you saw a picture of him.
Right. So it's one of those things. It's internet lore. So.
Oh, absolutely. But going back to the whole Riddle School thing, he didn't just stop at making that one parody. He went and made a whole series out of it. Me and both my sister, too. We played the first one, second one, third one, and it followed this kid as he went through different age groups. He was elementary school, middle school, high school. The map got bigger. The puzzles got a little more challenging and weirder. And it was just really fun and clever. And then years later, or a couple years later, he made the 4th and 5th entry, which it just got batshit crazy. And all of a sudden, you're in space. It's an alien plot. The 2nd, 3rd, and 4th games weren't real. You're actually still in elementary school.
Oh, geez.
It's batshit. And then he finally did finish it with a happy ending after canceling it, reigniting it, canceling it again. And then now it's a complete 7 games, fantastic, fun to play, good puzzles, and you can actually go back and look and see how he grew, got better at working with Flash and game design. His art got better, and all of the music he used was also from Newgrounds. It was stuff that other people had made, and he kind of pulled it in, and they helped bolster up the projects. And oh, dude, I played the shit out of Riddle School back in the day.
That's cool. So it was based on the community of Newgrounds also then. It was a little bit...
That's something that
effort.
I really like that Flash kind of brought together is there is so much of a tight-knit community around Flash. Even now that it's a little bit very dated, there's a lot of people that still program, animate, and make games in Flash. And I love that because it's just so much fun to fuck around with.
But I think it's important. You also said a lot of people moved on to Unity, which has become the premier programming language for indie games. And
Unity is definitely Unity, Unreal, and a lot of these other big time engines are becoming more commonplace because they're a lot easier to work with and more accessible, and not to mention very, very marketable to jobs right now. Mm-hmm. If you can code in C# and you can work Unity engine, you're making money.
Nice.
That's it.
Done.
It's what Flash used to be back in the day.
Right. I was going to say these early Flash games, that's what it really comes down to. Oh, I forgot to mention one. What I was going to mention was Elf Bowling. Do you remember this game, Elf Bowling?
Yes. Yes. You sent that one Christmas, I think.
Yeah, it was made with Shockwave. And it was one of those things where you literally had the elves at the end of a bowling lane and you played as Santa because the elves were striking. And you would toss a bowling ball down the lane. So what's interesting about it is, like I said, that was one of the early things. And the history behind it could be its own podcast. But basically, it was sent out in a chain email. And it was a Christmas card. And basically, people would open it up. And this is when the danger of viruses and stuff were really hardcore through email. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because you didn't know what it was. Because I think it was a .exe, even though it was made with Flash. I'm not sure how they did that. But it was a game where a lot of people downloaded it and played it. And I remember being a kid and my dad playing it, my aunt playing it, and everyone just thinking it was a lot of fun. And it was actually made by a Dallas company that created the game. And so they just created it as a Christmas card, basically. But that eventually became a retail game on different consoles. Like you could get it on the Game Boy Advance and things like that.
That's what's been really cool about a lot of these Flash games is they've found some pretty decent success outside of the Flash medium by itself. And again, going back to Alien Hominid, Castle Crashers, all that stuff stemmed from Flash game development. And then of course Meat Boy, Super Meat Boy is another one. Binding of Isaac, that's fucking huge.
Right.
I'm racking my brain for another one right now because I'm picturing it. It's in the front of my skull. I can't remember it. It'll hit me in a little bit.
What was the other Flash games that took up a good deal of your time?
Age of War. That was a fun strategy game. Me and my friends used to play. You'd start out as cavemen, you base on each side of the screen, and you would just send troops out. As you'd kill more troops, you'd rack up more money, and you'd eventually go through the ages, get knights, modern soldiers, all the way up to like future tech, and that was just a fun, clever little game.
It was basically Age of Empires.
Age of Empires, you have a flat map, you can actually move like that. Age of War, it's literally just a 2D. You click a button, your troops go.
Gotcha.
So you don't actually control them other than just saying, I want that one. Super Smash Flash. I did not have Smash Brothers at all back in the day. So, being able to play as Sonic the Hedgehog in Smash before that was even a thing was fucking awesome. Not to mention all of the other characters that he put in there. Oh, man. I mean, literally all of them. I think if it was a character in anything, it got on Super Smash Flash. And that's the thing is it played almost identical to Super Smash Brothers. The hit detection was a little bit weird, but it was really good. It was really, really fun.
That is one thing you can say about most Flash games. There is a little bit of a loosey-goosey to the controls in most of them. Like, they're not as tight. And the ones that were tightened up, such as Meat Boy and Alien Hominid and things like that, those are the ones that eventually made it to retail games. But I always felt like Flash games had a very loose ragdoll appeal in a lot of ways.
Oh, absolutely. This is another dumb one I forgot about. I'm sitting here scrolling through Newgrounds as we're talking about this.
Go for it.
Dad Game?
Dad Game?
Yeah. It's literally there was an animation. It was dad's home, dad's at work, and basically it's this bald dude, crude MS Paint animation of him just doing the weirdest, bizarrest shit. And this game is exactly that. That same character, but he's on a mission to, I guess, defeat his boss, if I remember right, and save the town or something. And you just get all sorts of absurd power-ups, flaming swords, coffee cups filled with coffee for health or something. It's been so long since I played it. I could be paraphrasing wrong there, but I remember that one being just dumb as shit.
Well, how about the dinosaur game, the T-Rex game, Dino Runner, where
I've never actually played much of that. I saw that. I played it once or twice. It never really did anything for me, but I know a lot of people love that.
a lot of people do. I can't remember where it was loaded, but I think it was Google Chrome browser. Basically, if you found a page that was like a page that didn't exist, that would let you play the mini game instead.
Kind of more on the animation side of things. I didn't really get huge into those. I was always more into the games, but I always loved basically it was a rip on Dragon Ball Z, where he took the Sonic universe, Mario universe, and just went poof. It was, what was it, Super Mario Brothers Z, I think it was. And when a new episode of that came out, it was a good time. It was absurd fights like Dragon Ball Z, but using those fucking characters and fighting over Chaos Emeralds and shit. And it played like an actual RPG with text boxes and stuff like that. But buddy, good time.
I spent a lot of time on Newgrounds watching 8-bit animations of video games, and they would do like Mario bloopers or Sonic bloopers and things like that. And those were all flash animated.
Those are funny as shit.
A lot of that stuff is lost in the wind. Like, it is gone for good. You're never going to get that back. But
yeah,
that was a lot of fun to kind of just get lost down the rabbit hole of Newgrounds and just watch that stuff. And like I said, it's totally gone now. Like, as far as I know, because I don't think Newgrounds has the animations anymore, does it?
Newgrounds did a pretty good job of preserving most of their stuff. Like, I'm scrolling through all of this, and I want to say that it has its own player.
Really? Click on something. Let's find out.
Here, yeah, because I don't have Flash installed on this anymore. But here, for example, there's so much weird shit on Newgrounds. Man.
That's what makes it wonderful. Is it's
Learn to Fly. That was another good game too.
Yeah, find something.
Oh shit! Go find fucking Riddle School.
So it's actually playing the actual game here. And I thought they killed Flash altogether. Is this Flash it's running on, or is it something else, you think?
As far as I know, yeah. Because this is the exact same fucking game that I played in elementary school, dude. It played just like this, looked and animated just like this. Like, this is identical. So to my knowledge, Newgrounds has a player built into the website that'll actually run all this crap, and it plays just like normal. Yeah, see, Newgrounds player. You do have to download something for their classic stuff, but they have their own built-in player that you can download, install, and it will let you run these old Flash games.
How freaking cool is that? Well, the one I was going to talk about was Super Mario Crossover. Basically, it had an evolution, and that's the other thing with the Flash games is they had evolutions. You know, they would have the initial version, and then they would update them, and then they'd let you know what version of the game it was. And initially began as just playing Super Mario Brothers, the original game, but it would put in characters from other Nintendo games, such as the Contra guys, or Mega Man, Link. They didn't just look like them. They played like the characters from the respective games.
You could use the fucking whip of Simon Belmont and fucking whip Goombas. Yeah.
Samus, you had the arm cannon. You know, as Link, you had your sword. And so you would move like them too. So it was an identical copy. So it would be like, well, what would this game play like if you had the mechanics of Mega Man from the Mega Man game? They eventually upgraded the game where it would be, you could change the background tiles. You can just play Super Mario Crossover. Wouldn't just be Super Mario Brothers 1, but it would be Super Mario Brothers 2 Japan, the Lost Levels, and then Super Mario Brothers Special, which was a game that was released on PCs that had a different setup than the original Super Mario Brothers. And so they just kept making it better and better and adding more characters and adding skins for the characters. And it was just an insane Flash game that was super enjoyable and you could just sink hours and hours into. And then there's another one that became like, because you know I'm all about the classic games, became like the ultimate Flash game for me. It was called A Bobo's Big Adventure. And I don't know if I ever showed it to you, Ethan.
I don't think I played that one.
No. What it was the ultimate love letter to Nintendo games. A Bobo is the bad guy from Double Dragon 2, who's the big hulking guy who's bald, and he's just a beast mode creature of the night. And in A Bobo's Big Adventure, you take the role of a Bobo, and your son, a Bobo Jr., has been kidnapped. So as he's kidnapped by Little Mac from Punch-Out, you have to go through a bunch of different levels based upon video games from the respective Nintendo series. So you begin going through Double Dragon 2, and then you go into an underwater level from Mario, and then you go into Balloon Fight from the game Balloon Fight. You have to do a wrestling match. You have to do the Legend of Zelda, where you actually go through one of the dungeons. And it's just full of Easter eggs and little things from other video games. You can literally find secret areas. At one point, The Goonies 2, which is a game I love, there's a mermaid at the end of it for God knows whatever reason. But you go into a door and it says like you can do different things like punch her, eat her, and then mate with her. And then you can actually
God.
You have 3 little Abobos and they like surround you like a shield through the level. Dude, it's just hysterical video game goodness. And it's just Nintendo nostalgia is what we're going to call it. Nintendo nostalgia.
Nintendo nostalgia.
Nintendo nostalgia. It's a wonderful, wonderful Flash game. But yeah, I mean, these little games allowed programmers. Grand Theft Auto clone, the 8-bit demake. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I think I do remember that. I want to say that was Flash, wasn't it?
It was created in Flash. That's correct. It's 8-bit.
What kind of becomes difficult, and this is both good and bad for us, but there is a point where, like I said earlier, Flash games became so good looking, it's hard to tell what uses Flash and what doesn't, because these people got really, really talented with it. Absolutely. It's insane.
Retro City Rampage. That's the name of the game.
Retro City Rampage. Yeah. Okay.
So, what were there any other games though that really
another one that comes to mind is Ultimate Flash Sonic. That was more or less a recreation, at least to my knowledge, of Sonic Advance 2 for the Game Boy Advance. And it plays almost just like it. It's another one of those instances where the detection is a little bit off. It might look like you're on top of a platform, but the edge is just a little bit shorter, so you fall off and die. But it for the most part, recreates that Sonic Advance 2. Animations, look, feel, and all. And it's fucking fun. I played the shit out of that whenever we were at school, in the computer lab, at home, whatever.
Well, the other thing that you keep saying is being at school, being in the computer lab. That's where I was on Flash animation stuff too. Like I said, watching Homestar Runner and stuff like that. Because our schools had a little bit faster internet, I'm thinking. By the time you were doing internet, it was probably broadband. But by the time when I was doing it, it was still... Well, no, actually... I watched most of it at school because we had faster internet at school. Whereas at home, it was the 56K and you had to have your mom off the phone and then you had to load it up. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was a way to waste time during computer class. That was a lot of fun. And the teacher actually endorsed it because it was new, novel technology. He was sitting there going like, this is cool too. You know?
See, it was the complete opposite by the time I got there. It was, well, why aren't you doing whatever you were assigned? Well, I'm already done with it. Well, why don't you do something more productive? Play one of these educational games over here. But no!
No!
Super Smash Flash!
Yeah. Yes.
Hey everyone, it's just Duck jumping in here real quick to say thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. If you're enjoying it, head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, or iTunes, and give We Are Podcast Network a like. And if you get a chance, head over to our social media. All links can be found in the description. You can find us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at /We Are Podcast. And with that, back to the podcast.
I mean, any other games you can think of?
Oh, I'm sure I can. Another fun one that I like by the wonderful Tom Fulp, just because I think it's ridiculous, is he made a game that is a tribute to The Room, the Tommy Wiseau movie. And more or less, it recreates the entire plot of the movie with his own little twist on it. All the art's done in like little 8-bit sprites. And it's so clever, so well done. And yes, there are 8-bit titties there for you, Duck. So you'll probably need to play that one.
8-bit titties.
8-bitties.
I love myself some 8-bit bitties.
Toss the Turtle is exactly what it sounds like. You have a little turtle that you'll shoot out of a cannon, and you try to see how far you can get him to go. You'll make more money the more things you run into. You try to dodge all the things that will stop you, like walls, spikes, things that will impede your progress, but the further you go, the more money you make. And it's this cycle of, okay, your turtle made it this far, you get this much cash, go buy some upgrades, get better, you could have different weapons to kind of shoot the turtle and bounce him up, keep him in the air. You could upgrade the cannon. Eventually you can buy a nuke that you'll just drop and it'll send him flying. It's ridiculous.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
I was going to say a lot of these Flash animated games ended up turning into almost like Android games, the way that we play them now, that are just simple, addictive games that I imagine a lot of these guys who programmed for Flash eventually turned to Android and iPhone to make some money, wouldn't they have?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, in the case of Toss the Turtle, there is actually a sequel that's out. You can play for free, if I'm not mistaken, on Android and iOS. It's Super Toss the Turtle. Same guy who did the art, Gonzo SSM. Guy makes super funny fucking animations. His art style is ridiculous, but Toss the Turtle is one of my favorite fucking things he ever did. Honestly, now that I think about it, he made some... Oh, yeah, he's the guy that did all of the whatever fail videos and parody videos of famous video games like Team Fortress fail, Overwatch fail, Payday 2 parody, all that sort of stuff. He's funny as shit.
Just a quick list of the most popular Flash games. If you look it up, Line Rider, Dino Run, Kingdom Rush, Super Meat Boy, Alien Hominid, Desktop Tower Defender, Gemcraft, Crush the Castle, Tetris, Super Smash Flash, and the list just goes on and on and on because there's just so many Flash games. I mean, thousands upon thousands, probably not even millions. I mean, I imagine it gets up there. And what's really cool about that Flash game history website that I was talking about, which I will link in the description, is the fact that it literally has like all the games and the amount of times that they were played. So it's got this cool little bubble diorama. It says like A Evil played 962,000 times on Newgrounds. SWAT played 998,000 times on Newgrounds. And then it's got things like the Lusty Barfly. what is that? You know what I mean? Like, Bad Dudes versus Bin Laden, Rate a Ride, the Skull Kids, Stick RPG, Custom Rides. It just keeps
okay, yeah. So then Stick RPG, yeah, that's the company I was looking at. It's a game studio by the name of XGen Studios. They make some of the weirdest, but I love their games. Fishy was fun. Defend Your Castle, Stick RPG Complete, as well as Stick RPG 2, and Motherload. Holy fuck. You're a little Martian digging machine. You dig down into the surface of Mars, go get minerals, come back up, upgrade your rig, and it's just a journey to see, get down to the Martian core. Well, whenever you get all the way down, you'll eventually dig through this little hole. It'll open up. You drop down into the bottom, and you're in a boss fight with Satan, bitch.
Satan!
Yeah. Who knew? Satan is at the core of Mars.
That's crazy.
It's a great game.
Well,
if you ever go back and play it.
If you played Doom, you would have known. But the other thing is, like, a lot of these Flash games played like modern arcade games. And you kind of pointed that out, you know what I mean? That
Yes.
They were simple ideas. And they really did play like modern arcade games. I don't know what else to say. But they were fun and they were quick 10-minute turnaround games, if even that. Some of them were 5 minutes, some were 3. And so you would see arcade conversions on there too. You would see Pac-Man, you would see Dig Dug, you would see things like that. But they were always done in that cute Flash animation way. And Flash animation did have a very unique style because it was an animating program, which was simple designs for most of the stuff. And I think that also added to the aesthetic. It also added to the charm of Flash. Rounded corners, a lot of rounded corners, not like 8-bit, not like what's the word I'm looking for? Vector graphics, where it was very line heavy. You had smooth corners and smooth drawings and everything. And Flash animation in Flash games, they just popped. They popped with character.
They had a very unique style to them, and I love that sort of Flash art style. I mean, you can get all sorts of crazy creative with it, but they did kind of have that vector line art look to them. A lot of bright colors pop. Line art especially was huge, but then you'd have people that would take it and go crazy, like Gretel and Hansel. You can play it on Newgrounds. It all looks like little paper dolls. So they actually made the two main characters. It looks like they're cut out and animated like they would be, and it's so cool. You can get crazy with it, but most people, yeah, they did that sort of vector line art since Flash, that was its bread and butter.
I want to say that not knowing that Newgrounds still was alive and kicking with his Flash stuff, I'm very excited about that. But also, if you're interested, you can actually find a lot of the other Flash stuff at bluemaxima.org/flashpoint, where you can actually download a program that allows you to run these thousands upon thousands of Flash games. They've been cataloged and saved there. There's also some on the Internet Archive. If you want to go there, you'll be able to find Flash games. So at least it has been saved. But for the most part, nothing newer will be made with Flash animation. Like Ethan said earlier, it's
probably not. With these newer game engines being as accessible and easy to operate as they are, it really would be kind of a step backwards to go and continue using Flash. But it would be even worse to lose all of that history, the games, the animations, everything that was made in Flash. So stuff like that and the Internet Archive that are actually doing their best to preserve some of this junk, because let's be real, some of it's junk. That's fantastic. And especially, you can go and play most of this stuff on Newgrounds, them having their own, Flash player, Newgrounds launchers, they call it. That's fantastic. But you can go still find and play all of this stuff, which is, it's amazing. When I heard that Flash was going to be gone,
I cried.
I immediately was just like, oh, goodbye, childhood.
Yeah.
Goodbye, hours spent on addicting games. Goodbye, Newgrounds. You were great.
So long, farewell. Any idea why they canceled out Flash?
Yes.
Okay, why is that?
Flash was prone, very, very vulnerable for web launchers. Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox, they can patch all they want, but because they had to keep supporting Flash and, eventually Adobe, they flat out dropped it. But all these web browsers kept supporting it. With Adobe no longer patching it, any vulnerability that got found, that instantly means it's a vulnerability on those browsers. So,
and by vulnerability, do you mean a virus or something like that?
All of the above. So someone could potentially use that to put a virus on your computer to get in and steal information off your computer, things like that. It basically it would open a door for them to run whatever program they want and do that. Now, whether that was really taken advantage of or not, I don't know. But it must have been a big enough deal for all these companies to just flat out drop it from their browser.
Damn. Well, I mean, like I said, I'm happy like you are that they have continued to support it in different ways, that it's still available to go play these games. I've got a lot of these games downloaded and archived in my computer just because that's how I wanted them, especially Super Mario Crossover and a Bobo's Big Adventure. You've got to play that if it's still available. But
yeah, and if you want a good couple hours to kill, you can play the entire Riddle School series on Newgrounds still, from the first one all the way up through the main line. First 5 games and then the 2 little sequel epilogue games that he made. Fantastic. Actually has a good story. I cried. Maybe that was nostalgia playing a factor there, but it was such a good ending. Well, I didn't know that it had much of a story other than get out of school, but I cried, Doc. I cried.
Don't cry, Ethan. It's scary to think that a part of your nostalgic history could have been gone too and put into the wind, because with my nostalgia, I can just go buy Nintendo or I can emulate it. You know what I mean? Flash is a lot different. These games that you love so much are your Nintendo games, basically. These are the ones that you spent time with. So It's so crazy to think that they were almost lost. So
what also kind of helps is a lot of these creators, at least from what I can guess, is they're coming back and they must be updating these games or something, because there's so much stuff on Newgrounds that does not need that player that I was able to run before we started recording this. We only came across that 1 or 2 things that needed the actual Newgrounds launcher for. Everything else has been long updated, recoded, and resubmitted to where you can access it now. So that gives me a little bit of hope that maybe not everything is going to be lost, even when all of that eventually disappears. Because Flash may be unsupported, discontinued, but it's still going to take a little while for it to fully phase out. It's fun to look back on this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and definitely, if you get a chance, go check out some of the stuff that we mentioned here and see if you give it a go and see if it's something that you would enjoy. Because you never know. And we'll link the websites in the description. So Newgrounds, definitely check that out. That's pretty cool that they're still thriving. And that's a lot of where this nostalgia comes from. So with that said, thank you so much for listening. This has been Duck. I've been here with
Dr. Reverend Ethan Eben.
That's such a long pause.
Extra pause. Little extra.
And I don't know if we're changing our tagline or not, but
I don't think we should.
oh, okay. Well, then.
I mean, did you have a better one in mind?
No, I don't. So Vince.
Well, you know why you didn't, right?
Yeah,
Because you ain't Billy Mitchell, bitch.
Oh, Jesus, because I'm a bitch. Ethan, you called me.
So
a
stop
bitch.
trying.
Talking about crying, dude. Just start trying to crying. Just don't forget your bitch. That's our tagline.
So ridiculous.
That's fucking ridiculous.
And there it is. Thank you again so much for checking out the podcast today. If you enjoyed it, head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and iTunes, and give We Are Podcast Network a like. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, you're going to love the other podcasts here on the We Are Podcast Network. We have We Are Air, where we talk movies, entertainment, whatever the fuck we want to talk about. That's me, that's Jake, and that's Javi. We're breaking down that pop culture, and we're having so much fun. Heroes, Gyros, a Dungeons and Distractions side quest. Me and the boys were playing some D&D. You can start that one from Season 1, Episode 1. It's a blast the whole way through. And I Hate Being Sober. Personal stories from epic people. I sit down with some of my favorite people of all time. We talk about their trials, their tribulations, and their journey this far. And finally, our new live video podcast, Camp Slash Horrorcast, where we're going to have a roundtable discussion about our favorite horror movies. That'll be available on Twitch and YouTube, streaming every Monday at 8 p.m. Check the links in the description to find out what movies we'll be watching. Also, check the links in the description for our social media. You can find us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at /We Are Podcast Network. With that said, thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. Please remember to support local comedy in any way that you can. We'll see you next time.